Welcome to another week of the Leadership Void and episode 2 for us. We're making headway here.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
and so we want to thank you for joining us today and being with us on this journey for me and Vince. And I'll give the mic back to Vince, so he can address you guys.
Hey, good morning, everyone. As Enrique said, episode 2, live, raw, and in person. We definitely are here to talk a little bit about, first of all, both of us, because professional backgrounds, I think, is important for all of you to know our credibility, our history, our journey, as we dived into this plethora of opportunity, synergy, and to create the beautiful leadership void, which will be the second part of our conversation. So we'll start off right off with the bat. Let's kick it off with Enrique. Talk to us about your journey and in life to be the man that you are today, the myth, the legend.
I would digress a little from the myth and the legend, but nonetheless, I'm originally from Ponce, Puerto Rico. Grew up in the Bronx, 165th, right across from Yankee Stadium. So a great childhood as far as the location is concerned. But I quickly joined the Navy after high school and made it a 26-year career. Was blessed. Was in meteorology and oceanography for all that time, and the last 12 years of my career I spent as a senior enlisted leader. What that is just managing the day-to-day sailor activities, anywhere from personal to professional, and there's a big swath there, right? When it talks about management of people. And I was fortunate, anywhere from a 50-person command to over 1,000 people command. And so just blessed to do that for that amount of time. Retired in 2015, decided that Orlando was the best place for my two boys. And I was right. And have been here since the end of 2015. And it's been a great journey. Been in the corporate executive side, been on the management side of the civilian sector, and just enjoying every day. Back to you.
Wow, definitely a great journey, Enrique. So interesting enough, some parallels of our childhood. So Vince Laurent, grew up in Bronx, New York, on Cortona Avenue by the zoo,
Oh yeah.
and in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. So on the other side of Ponce. Uh, I was a father at 18 and decided to join the United States Air Force, uh, off to, the wild blue yonder. Uh, I did 21 years in the Air Force. I started out as an electrician, and I started working with my hands and cross-trained into working with my mind and my heart, which was an equal opportunity. And the Air Force is actually military equal opportunity branch. So I did that with senior leaders, moved up in rank and became superintendent of equal opportunity. So really in charge and understanding my focus was really, and it became my passion of working with diverse teams, uh, to be inclusive. And I used to say in the military, bullets don't see color; they only see Americans. One team, one fight. So it was imperative for me to understand the beauty of diverse, inclusive teams, which in 2007, I retired from Bowling Air Force Base in DC and became a diversity inclusion kind of connoisseur in the federal government in USDA, specifically the Food and Nutrition Service, and rose up to be the diversity program manager. So I kept on exercising my craft and my passion of diversity. I call it the mix, and inclusion is making the mix work, making it work together. You can be invited to a dance, but if you're not taken out to dance, then you're just standing on the
Yeah.
wall. So being diverse and being included is also super important. Um, I decided in 2016 to polish my craft and be a student of life learning, and I got my executive certificate of coaching through Georgetown and a business certificate through them. did a couple cohorts here and there. In 2017, moved here to Florida to expand myself in the beautiful sunny state. And here, finding my niche, and started a company called Ignite RPM, which we're focused more on leaders and managers to have a growth mindset. Really, the vision is to transform internally so they can have outward results and the journey to a better part of themselves. So all inclusively, that's my journey. And I was fortunate through one of my paths of the Camaraderie Foundation to meet up with this gentleman called Enrique Acosta to my side, Gonzalez, and here's what we decided to join forces and talk about our project, which was actually just dealing with leadership, right? But I want to turn it over to you to talk about, that project, how it started, what you think, where we're at, and where are we going with it. So pass it on to you, sir.
All right. It was interesting. Most all stories start from these two people came out of nowhere, right?
And people walk into a bar.
Yeah, and met and started doing some great things. Similar to you, I started Triad Leadership Solutions to identify and focus on areas where people were lacking. Everybody wants to fix something, right? That is in our business. And that's why we're in business with leaders, to improve and to develop and to enrich them to the point where the people they're leading are not suffering. And that's what I wanted to focus on, the suffering piece. I was very aware early in my leadership that anything you say, do, or even act affects everyone under you. I saw it in leaders above me early on, and I saw it as a leader myself. So I endeavored, even in the military, to take those leaders there and start to mold them into something where I was happy that people were following them. So, through camaraderie, as you mentioned earlier, we had met. I knew that you was in the inclusion leadership development on one side, and it just dawned on me to to join forces. It's better two than one, and I think you may remember I told you, two ropes, a rope of 2 or 3 cords is much stronger than just a rope of one. And so what we are endeavoring to do is the same thing, but we're just joining forces. We're trying to shore up leaders in the areas where we feel that need to be addressed. They would actually have to, acknowledge those areas. So there's a lot of self-awareness in that process. But to produce someone that other people would be happy to follow. I'm sure you have leaders that that immediately come to your head as, man, I really admire that person because this, that, and the other. I have some in my head that come immediately, so that's what we want all the workforce to be able to say. You don't necessarily need to agree on everything, but one thing workers must agree on is that you were a leader worthy of following. If you cannot get that from your workers, from your teammates, from from the people at your same level, believe it or not, and even higher, if your bosses, if your leaders can't say, man, if I had 1,000 Enriques, I would just be plumb happy, right? If they can't say that because of the impact you're actually bringing and the effects that you're bringing to the team, then it's time to step back and look at your leadership style, look at how you process leadership, how you enact leadership, and start making some adjustment, because at the end of the day, you're only going to be remembered by what people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we was aiming to combine and take your inclusion history background, my development background, and join it together and make great leaders.
Right. And if I could chime in,
Yeah.
you mentioned a few things that I thought resonated with me. You know, you mentioned, try to fix things, which are, to me, are the results. You mentioned leaders that you admire and want to follow and learn from, and they are following you, but they have their thoughts, they have feelings, and there's action, right? So you mentioned leaders that you admire. And when I think about that, I specifically say, okay, what do those characteristics look like about leaders you admire? And if I could be a betting man, we'll talk about empathy. We'll talk about being transparent, cool under pressure, great communicator, humble, you know, so many characteristics. And if you think about that for a second, 85%, and this is research shows that what I just mentioned is not within the technical side or knowledge side. And it shows that being great leaders, it's 85% are the emotional skill sets, which is the empathy, which is the humility, which is understanding others. And so it's not really technical. It's not really the books. Like I mentioned last week, is not about the academic armor. It's about those skills, because what we remember is how they made us feel and how they deal with those moments of being in the fire, being in the front line, you know, dealing with bullets flying at them, how they really cool, calm, and collectively move a troop, move the squad over to the other side and achieve their mission. So, and all this, I say this, is that we are continuing to exercise our mental, our grit, our mental capacity, and emotional capacity, because that's where it leads to being great, and being a great leader, from good to great. As we are now all confined in a space, you know, based on the coronavirus, we are told that we should be exercising, you know, we should be doing things to be more creative. And part of that exercise, not just physical, is mental, right? We have to mentally decide what to do, read more, understand ourselves. And I think that's a great component, a good segue into what we're doing in this podcast, to talk about those mental exercises that we should be embarked on to avoid that VOID, you know, the void itself.
Right.
You know, we were trying to get away from that. So I think that was just something I just gravitated to me as I heard you speak about this project we're on. So what are your thoughts about what I mentioned, or anything specifically jumped out at you? Just curious.
Yeah, no, you're right that there are some instant things that come up, right? And the funny thing is that a lot of people agree on those, but not too many people are doing anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody agreed that what we need is empathetic, you know, heartfelt leaders that
Mm-hmm.
can, you know, that can sit with you, cry, wipe their tear, roll their sleeve up, and give you a way ahead. If everybody agrees on that, then why aren't we seeing those leaders rise? That means
Right.
that means that the workforce is agreeing on that, because they're the ones that have to deal with the lack of leadership, the voids in leadership.
Right.
But the problem is that at the leadership level and above, there's no impact to those, you know. And originally, just to go back to Triad Leadership Solutions, my original thought for developing Triad was based off of the Triad organization, the commanding officer, the executive officer, and the senior enlisted, right? That's what comprises the triad in the military. The reason that relationship is there is because the commanding officer, he wears the command. right? Where the responsibility, accountability, and everything that goes with that is on the shoulders of that commanding officer. The executive officer is there to aid him on the administration of that command. Make sure that things are running the way they're supposed to, so I can make the right decisions and get me the information from the people. So herd the leadership, right? Herd the leadership to the point where I don't have to worry about that, right? And then the senior enlisted is there to to uh to bring in the enlisted force so that they can support the administrative and the mission of the command. I mean, all three have their own distinct role, but neither of them are out of sync. Whatever the senior enlisted knows, the executive officer knows, and the executive officer and the CO know, and there is no break in that triangle. Now I won't tell you that I have not been to commands where that has been broken. But if it has been broken, it's because somebody's ego has gotten away and they are not letting the process work. Mm-hmm. So my original thought was, let's replicate that in the civilian sector, where we bring in a seasoned military leader that's civilian friendly. Okay, there is such a thing, right? That's civilian friendly, that can come in, seamlessly get into the grain of the company, and provide that third spoke to that stool, right? Where you have a CEO and a COO, and you have the executive advisor. That executive advisor is the bridge between all of the workforce, the COO, and the CEO. And so that was my original thought, and that's why, and I still believe to this day that will work, that that component will work in most businesses. But back to leadership. Leadership is it's gonna be changed either, I say right now, let's just put just two ways. There's many ways, but let's just put two ways where I think. One, if the workforce starts to talk, if they start to become a greater voice in the way leadership is rolling. For instance, there's a leader that obviously is I don't know, for better sense, an abuser, because there are some. They abuse you mentally, they abuse you physically, they abuse you emotionally, they abuse you verbally, yet they are in leadership. How can that be? And if he was in my command, you wouldn't be a leader for long. You wouldn't. I couldn't stand for it, right? So where are those other leaders not standing for it? And where are the voices of the workforce being raised to the point where something has to be done about this? So I'm not asking for a revolt or a revolution whatsoever. What I'm asking for is some transparency from both the workforce and the upper leadership to recognize where these voids are. And hey, look, not everybody, you don't want to be, you're out. You don't want to be like that. You don't want to be like that. You want to be interested enough to develop your people. As a CEO, you should be so interested in developing your people that you're looking for ways to do that. Now, when all things are exhausted, what can you do, right? You've exhausted every possible way to develop someone, and they just don't get it. What can you do, other than, just thankfully show them, another way. But there's, so back to the main thing, which is all these characteristics. We agree what's great, we agree what's okay, and we agree what's not acceptable. But what I see is that there's a lot more unacceptable behavior, unacceptable leadership, voided leadership working out there now, and I don't see much change.
Hmm. Well, hearing you say all that is I'll play another side of that. There are great leaders out there. You know, it's not the plethora. It's not the norm in the sense of every corporation and every industry, but there's great leaders out there as well, and those are ones we always aspire to either have work for or, or be in the same group with, right? And the void is a reality, and we all have to understand that we have to take ownership on, I messed up, you know, I'm the one to blame. As a leader, you should be doing a lot more of blaming yourself versus blaming others, right? And it's important to grow. I think that void of not having all the capacity is important to internalize, but sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. So being a great, and our next segment is being a great listener, because you're going to learn what are you missing, what you can do to improve, and it takes those listening opportunities and a mentor and a coach, so you can get those hard knock moments to understand, yeah, you know, they're right, and internalize it and let go of that ego, and internalize it. So but it takes a lot, and it takes that mental exercising, and not just mentally, but mind and heart, you know, they go hand in hand. Take care off of that armor and really open up and internalize it. So that's very important to the point of having those characteristics and build on them.
Yeah, that sense of ownership that you mentioned is so vital. Um,
Mhm.
look, I can't tell you how many times I've walked down a passageway, saw some rapper on the floor. It did not hop out of the store. It didn't it didn't, you know, somebody dropped that there, right? It doesn't matter to me who dropped it. What matters to me is that I saw it, and what
Mhm.
now, right? So I'll go down and I'll pick it up,
Right.
take it to the garbage,
Integrity.
take it to the
Do the
garbage,
right thing when nobody's looking.
right?
Right.
So the reason why I do that is just because it's wherever I am, it's my house.
Right.
That's just how I see it, you know. So and that has enabled me to be able to positively impact wherever I am at the point that I'm there. You know, I can't do nothing before, I can't do nothing after. And I try to instill that in others so that they understand that if everyone took an opportunity and made their moment their responsibility, we would be in a whole lot better place. And and back to you, you have mentioned that there are some great leaders. If we did not have great leaders, we'd be in a shamble, right?
Oh,
There are some great leaders out there, and by all means, I didn't mean to to sound like everybody outside is a chaos, but they're outnumbered, and that's what I was trying to say. You know, they're
gotcha.
outnumbered, and what we want to is even kill this. If you ran into a 50-50 scenario, I think most people be happy, right?
Right.
Yeah, this person's not, it's not great, but I'm probably gonna get the next great one next time, right? Um, and but they are outnumbered. We need to somehow even that playing field, and push to the 75% over 25%. I think the world would be a whole lot better place if it was like that.
Right.
And then you would feel the pressure of, hey, no, my voids are speaking louder than my actions, you
Mhm.
know, or the good that I could do. I need to, beat this up. Um, but yeah, you're right. There's a lot of great leaders, a lot of great attributes out there. Uh, and for the most part, uh, those that go into leadership, they usually go into it with a mind of, man, I'm gonna make an impact, right? I don't think there's anybody. Well, let me just say, I hope there's not anybody wake up in the morning and say, how I'm gonna mess this world up today, right? I hope there's nobody waking up like that. But most people don't, right? Most people are looking to do a good job,
Mm-hmm.
do something that's worth that they can feel good about, and not be ashamed of. So leadership is one of those areas that I always caution, man. You might want to think about where you're going if you haven't counted the cost, because there is a cost to it, right? Usually is self. The price to great leadership is self,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to consider that before you just going after the money, or going after the popularity, or going after the company car and the expense accounts and all of this thing that comes with some of those positions. But leadership is a hard thing.
No, it is. It totally is. I mean, one thing is to manage, one thing is to lead, which we're definitely gonna have another podcast about that.
Right,
Excel,
right.
but you mentioned integrity. Do things when do what's right when nobody's looking. It's totally understandable as far as that wrapper on the floor of the candy store, the store. Which to me, another podcast, which it gave me the thought of the open door policy, and
Ah,
you hear about that, and this is something I'm on left field, but I thought
yeah,
it was
yeah, no, that's
important because we think of open door policies, and what's behind that is a welcoming, trusting environment, right?
right,
And as a leader, you should be exercising every moment, being in the presence. You are that open door policy. That meaning that anybody could come to you and don't feel threatened, don't feel like they can't engage you when you walk, because we say we got to lead and manage by walking around. But if you don't have an open door policy of the self, they're never going to come to you. It's like, how come I didn't know that? Because you don't have an open door policy, so and we can explore and exploit that a lot more
right,
of a person being an open door policy, having the presence of an open door policy, being welcoming, going back to those characteristics. If they feel trusted and listened to, you will be the best leader you can be, because you're leading others. To your point, you're building them, you're motivating them, you developing them, and you're putting out fires in this end. So there's a lot invested in that. And one last thing is that you mentioned earlier, the triage, you know, senior leader, the one who does the admin, the senior listed. But as those leaders that are out there that are solopreneurs, you're doing all three.
right.
You are literally all three combined in one. So it's even better and more important to be those those strings or to that rope, because you need a team to help you go forward as a solopreneur in the triage component. So force multiplier, we say, we don't fight alone in battle, we fight in a team. So for those leaders that are out there, this is a great point, a great opportunity to just be immersed within your own tribe, so you can get the help that you need and understand different facets, so because you're not alone. And another reason we're doing this is to give you a voice, give you a platform to be inclusive and to be understanding of your needs, the challenges you have, because we want to make sure to go from that 50-50 to that 75-25. And you're one of them. And if you be a manager to become a leader, jump on board too, because guess what? You always going to be leading no matter how you look at it. You manage probably people right now, but soon to be leader. So join now. It's never too early to take on this opportunity.
Right.
It's going to just better yourself either personally and in addition to professionally. So I encourage you to jump on board, learn from each other. And one thing I heard early on, we learn in rows, we get taught in rows, but we grow in circles, right? Because in circles is where you grow. In circle, you learn in a theater style and a classroom style, from the website, from a podcast, but you grow in a circle because you have others you have to listen to, you have to communicate, you have to understand it. The problem is, this problem said it was this on paper, but now it's different. To my earlier point last week is like, I could say I'm a great father until I have a kid.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
the test.
academically, I can learn all the books smart I can, but application and learning and growing in a circle is so important. Hence why we're doing this. Hence we want you to grow in this community, in this circle, in this tribe. So it's going to be a great opportunity. We're here today just to really embarking on talking about a professional background. We could dive a lot deeper into so many subjects.
Right.
Please give us opportunity to see what subjects you want us to talk about. It's important. We do have a couple coming down the pipe because of our survey, and Enrique will talk a little bit about that and how that's going to look. But we invite you to come in, ask questions. What's bothering you? What's not making you go to that next level? We want to give you some opportunities, some tips, some examples how we fell too. But 9 times fall, 1 time get up all the time.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned the survey, and really that what sparked all of this in terms of how are we going to encapsulate the survey, and how are we going to be able to address some of those issues that come out in the survey. And we've already kind of named some of those things that have come up, but the survey was very eye-opening. Although some of the things were expected, right? Some of the things were expected, but listening, for instance, right? Something that we're going to cover next week. Listening, for instance, was resounding. It's amazing how many people answered that they need leaders that know how to listen.
Right.
Because the perception is, I'm the leader, you need to listen. And
right.
but it's actually backwards. I'm the leader, I am listening.
Right.
And
Open
you
door
get
policy.
you get the most of your people when you approach them from a two-ear perspective. When you approach them from a two-ear perspective, not only will you know what your team is going through, the challenges they have, what personal things may be coming up, it helps you manage, it helps you lead a whole lot better. And so we'll talk more about that next week. And I don't want to, get too much into it, but listening is just one of the many things that have come up. And we're going to be going over some of those things from the survey in our, future podcasts. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to add value to what you said, Enrique, is, we asked them, what advice would you give someone starting in leadership? We asked, how do you feel, what you feel you need to improve, or what mistakes you've seen others make. And to your point, out of those 3 questions, the one thing that gravitated to the top was listening. So and hence what Enrique just mentioned, folks. We're going to talk about that next week, because that is the number one. Having that open door policy, as I call it, as a person, it means not just being the one to speaking to, but you're also listening to, right? So we're very excited to peel back of what you brought to the forefront, which we had some ideas, but you kind of like asserted our definition of leadership through our questions. So we want to follow through and help peel back these different components, the 5 top of each questions. And listening is a resounding skill set that we have to practice, exercise day in and day out. Like I said, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, 2 in 1. We have surround sound capabilities. Yep. We should use it.
Yep. Yeah. So just like you, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe, to like, to share. Please, if you have anything that you would like for me and Vince to discuss, feel free to email us. Our email is theleadershipvoid@gmail.com. We'll tabulate all the, all the submissions, and it can help us mold future podcasts and things to talk about. We may even consider featuring one question per podcast and address that specifically. And we'll look at how to incorporate that into the show. But please, if you have anything, suggestions, anything that you would like for us to cover, please send it to theleadershipvoid@gmail.com.
Right, and thank you for that. But just to be more specific, anything in the sense of leadership. So
right.
don't ask us about how do you fix the fan, right? We want to be specific of our, and be in all seriousness. Here we focus on leadership. So those challenges, those opportunities you want for growth in the leadership arena, that's what we want to definitely target. So send us your questions, send us your comments, ideas, thoughts, to, again, theleadershipvoid@gmail.com. And if you would like to be featured in one of our podcasts as a leader, please let us know. We'll set up some time so you can definitely talk to our audience and talk about leadership challenges or issues and your capabilities that you've seen that have been great to have you grow as a leader as well. So we encourage your questions, your challenges, and or if you would like to be on our podcast. And they come out on Wednesdays. So stay tuned on Wednesday morning, bright and early, with your cup of Joe or your smoothie. You get us fresh right there in your fingertips, on your phone or on your tablet or on your PC. So join us on Wednesdays, and feel free to send us your comments and questions.
Outstanding. Well, that's it for today for us, and we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Like I said, we're on YouTube, so like, subscribe, share if you like, and we're also on all the podcast platforms, so look us up there. We usually make a post of this on LinkedIn, so if you're on LinkedIn, we'll see you there as well.
That's right. Thank you very much. Episode 2 down, couple more to go. Thank you.
All right.